The ceiling fan whirred overhead, each rotation pushing stale air around the cramped apartment I called home. My fingertips traced the worn edges of another rejection letter, the third this week. Outside, rain pattered against my single window, droplets racing down the glass like tears I refused to shed. I was 26, drowning in student debt, and working 2 dead-end jobs that barely covered my rent. The cafe downstairs where I worked mornings reeked of burnt coffee and desperation. The upscale restaurant where I waited tables at night smelled of money and privilege, neither of which belonged to me. When my phone buzzed with a text from my manager at Bellissimo's, I nearly ignored it. But I needed the hours, needed every penny I could scrape together. Need you to come in early. VIP reservation. Wear the black dress uniform. I sighed, watching my planned evening of self-pity dissolve. The black dress meant the private dining room, meant rich people who tipped well, but looked through you like you were made of glass. Invisible. Just another body to fetch their champagne and smile at their jokes. The rain had soaked through my thin jacket by the time I reached the restaurant's back entrance. My hair clung to my face in damp tendrils, and my makeup had surely smudged beneath my eyes. Jesus, Ellie, you look like a drowned rat, Marco, the sous chef, muttered as I passed through the kitchen. I ducked into the staff bathroom, attempting to salvage what I could of my appearance. The woman in the mirror looked exhausted. Dark circles beneath hazel eyes, pale skin, a smile that never quite reached those eyes anymore. When had I become this person, this shadow? The Russo party arrives in 20, my manager Sophia said, appearing in the doorway. Her critical gaze swept over me. Fix your hair. They requested you specifically. Me? Why would they ask for me? Sophia shrugged. Mr. Russo was here last week. Said he appreciated your discretion. A dim memory surfaced, a table of 6 men in tailored suits, speaking in hushed tones, falling silent whenever I approached. I'd served them efficiently and without lingering, which seemed to please the man at the head of the table. He'd left a $1,000 tip with a brief nod of acknowledgement. I hadn't even known his name then. The private dining room gleamed with polished silver and crystal when I entered to make final preparations. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering city below, rain transforming the lights into blurred watercolors. The room sat 17 floors above the street, a place for people who preferred to look down on the world. I was adjusting the final place setting when the door opened. First came 2 men in dark suits, their eyes scanning the room methodically. Security. Then a woman in a sharp blazer, an assistant, I guessed, from the tablet clutched in her manicured hands. And finally, him. He entered as if the air itself should feel honored to fill his lungs. Tall, with broad shoulders beneath a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my yearly rent. His dark hair was cut short on the sides, longer on top, and his jawline could have been carved from marble. But it was his eyes that made my breath catch, pale blue, almost silver in the dim lighting, and utterly, completely cold. Until they landed on me, something flickered there, recognition, surprise, and something else I couldn't name, something that made the hairs on my arms rise. Miss Ellis, he said, my name in his mouth sounding like something precious and rare. How did he know my last name? I trust you're well. I nodded, dropping my gaze to the carpet. Yes, sir. Welcome back to Bellissimo's, Adrian, he corrected, his Italian accent caressing each syllable. My name is Adrian Russo. I didn't need the name to know who he was. The way his security positioned themselves at the door, the deference in the assistant's posture, the almost imperceptible earpiece. It all spoke of power and danger in equal measure. Everyone in the city knew the Russo family controlled the docks, the construction unions, and half the police force, though no one said so aloud. Will the rest of your party be arriving soon? I asked, desperately clinging to the script of professional service. Adrian settled into the chair at the head of the table, his movements fluid and controlled. There is no party, just us. My confusion must have shown on my face because he added, I own this restaurant, Elena. I can dine alone if I wish. His use of my full first name sent an involuntary shiver down my spine. I hadn't introduced myself to him last week. I never did with customers. Of course, sir. Adrian, I corrected, Would you like to see the wine list? The 2001 Maceto, he said without looking at any menu. And whatever chef recommends for dinner. His eyes never left my face. You'll join me. It wasn't a question. My pulse quickened. Fear and something else. Something I refused to acknowledge, coursing through my veins. I'm working, Mr. Russo. Not tonight. He loosened his tie slightly, the only sign that he was settling in for the evening. Tonight, you're my guest. Before I could protest, Sophia appeared at my elbow. Take care of Mr. Russo, she whispered urgently. Whatever he wants. I understood then. This wasn't a request from a customer. This was a command from the owner, from a man who wasn't accustomed to hearing the word no. Dinner was exquisite, courses I couldn't pronounce and had never tasted. Wine that slid down my throat like liquid silk, and across from me, Adrian Russo watched me with those pale eyes, asking questions about my life, my dreams, my disappointments, questions no one had bothered to ask in years. I told him about my literature degree, my failed attempts to break into publishing, my parents' death 3 years ago in a car accident. I didn't mention my brother Tommy's gambling debts, or his disappearance 6 months ago. Some secrets weren't mine to share, especially not with a man like Adrian Russo. You don't belong here, he said after the dessert plates had been cleared. My cheeks flushed hot with embarrassment. Of course I didn't belong in his world of wealth and power. No, Elena, he continued, reading my expression. Not in this restaurant, not serving people who don't see you. His fingers brushed against mine on the tablecloth, a touch so light it might have been imagined. You were meant for better things. The way he said it, like a promise, like a threat, made my mouth go dry. It's getting late, I managed, withdrawing my hand. I should go. My driver will take you home. That's not necessary, I can... It's raining and this neighborhood isn't safe at night. His tone hardened slightly. I insist. The sleek black car waited at the curb, one of his security men holding an umbrella over me as I climbed into the back seat. To my surprise, Adrian slid in beside me. You don't need to escort me, I said, pressing myself against the door to maintain distance. I protect what interests me, Elena. His gaze traveled over my face in the dim interior. And you interest me greatly. The car moved silently through the rain-slicked streets, and I found myself giving my address without thinking. We rode in silence, the space between us electric with unspoken words. When we reached my building, a dilapidated structure in a neighborhood that had seen better days, Adrian frowned. This isn't safe. It's all I can afford, I said, defensiveness creeping into my voice. For now. 2 simple words that carried implications I wasn't ready to consider. He insisted on walking me to my door, his security man trailing at a discreet distance. At my apartment, I fumbled with my keys, acutely aware of how shabby everything must look through his eyes. Thank you for dinner, I said formally, desperately trying to regain the professional distance I'd maintained with customers for years. Adrian reached out, his fingers brushing a strand of hair from my face. I'll see you tomorrow, Elena, I blinked. I'm not scheduled to work tomorrow. The smile that curved his lips didn't reach his eyes. I didn't say anything about work. After he left, I leaned against my closed door, heart hammering in my chest. What had just happened? What did a man like Adrian Russo want with me? The questions swirled in my mind as I moved through my evening routine, jumping at every sound outside my window. The next morning, I woke to a knock at my door. A courier stood outside, holding a large white box tied with black ribbon. Elena Ellis? He asked, checking his tablet. Inside the box lay a dress of deep emerald silk, elegant in its simplicity. The card beside it read only, "Wear this. 7 p.m. A." I should have been offended by the presumption. I should have packed the dress away and called the restaurant to ensure I was on the schedule for that night instead. I should have done anything except run my fingers over that silk, imagining how it would feel against my skin. By evening, my curiosity had won over my pride. The dress fit perfectly, suspiciously so. I twisted before my mirror, watching the fabric shimmer in the harsh bathroom light. Precisely at 7, another knock came. This time, It was the security man from the night before. "Mr. Russo is waiting, Miss Ellis." The same black car idled at the curb. Inside, Adrian's eyes darkened with appreciation when I slid into the seat beside him. "Beautiful," he murmured. "Where are we going?" I asked, ignoring the warmth his approval sent spreading through my chest. "Somewhere safe." The car wound through the city before climbing the hills to the exclusive Altura neighborhood, where mansions perched like crowns upon the ridge. We passed through wrought iron gates and up a long driveway to a modern structure of glass and stone that seemed to grow organically from the hillside. "Is this your home?" I asked as the driver opened my door. Adrian's hand found the small of my back. One of them. Inside was a world of understated luxury. Clean lines, warm woods, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city below. Art I recognized from museum visits adorned the walls. No photos, I noticed. Nothing personal. "Why am I here?" I finally asked, as he poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. Adrian handed me a glass, his fingers brushing mine deliberately. "Because I want you to be." That's not an answer. Something like respect flickered in his eyes. "No, it isn't." He gestured toward the windows. "Do you know what I see when I look out there, Elena? A city of people pretending they're happy, pretending they're safe, pretending they're free." He moved closer, the heat of him warming my skin through the silk dress. "But you don't pretend. It's there in your eyes, the truth, the loneliness, the hunger for something more." I took a step back. "You don't know me. I know more than you think." He sipped his drink, watching me over the rim of his glass. "I know about Tommy." The sound of my brother's name on his lips sent ice through my veins. I set my untouched drink down with shaking hands. "What about Tommy?" "He owes certain people a considerable amount of money, people who aren't as patient as I am." Understanding dawned with sickening clarity. "Is that why I'm here? Because of my brother's debts?" Adrian's expression hardened. "You're here because I want you here. The matter with your brother is separate, but you know where he is?" "Yes." One simple word that changed everything. 6 months of fear and uncertainty compressed into a single syllable. "Is he alive?" My voice cracked on the question. Adrian moved toward me, his hand coming up to cup my cheek. "For now. But his situation is precarious." Tears burned behind my eyes. "What do you want from me? Right now?" His thumb traced my lower lip. "I want you to have dinner, to rest, to feel safe for one night, and tomorrow?" His smile was gentle, but held no warmth. "Tomorrow, we'll discuss how you can help your brother, and how I can help you." We ate on the terrace. The city lights spread beneath us like fallen stars. Adrian spoke of his childhood in Sicily, his father's business, his mother's death when he was 12. He asked about my parents, my studies, my favorite books. It felt almost normal, almost like a date, if I could forget who he was, what he represented, and the unspoken threat hanging over my brother's life. After dinner, he showed me to a guest room larger than my entire apartment. The bed was turned down, and a silk nightgown lay across the duvet. "You'll stay here tonight," he said, standing too close in the doorway. "And if I want to leave?" His expression didn't change. "Do you?" The question hung between us, charged with implications. Leave and return to my cramped apartment, to my dead-end jobs, to my life without Tommy? Or stay and step into whatever game Adrian Russo was playing? "I'll stay," I said finally. "But only because of Tommy." Adrian's fingers traced the line of my jaw. "Lie to yourself if you must, Elena. But don't lie to me." He stepped back. "Sleep well. Tomorrow will be illuminating." I didn't expect to sleep, but exhaustion claimed me the moment my head touched the pillow. I dreamed of Tommy, of the ocean, of cold blue eyes watching me from the shadows. When I woke, sunlight streamed through windows I'd forgotten to close. A breakfast tray waited on the bedside table, along with another box. Inside lay jeans and a cashmere sweater in my size with a note. "We have business in the city. Casual attire. I dressed quickly, unnerved by how well the clothes fit, how the soft fabric felt against my skin. In the bathroom, I found new toiletries, a hairbrush, even makeup in shades that matched my coloring perfectly. How long had Adrian Russo been watching me before that dinner at Bellissimo's? He waited in the kitchen, reading something on a tablet that he set aside when I entered. His eyes traveled over me, noting the clothes, my damp hair, the uncertainty in my posture. "You slept well?" he asked, rising to pour me coffee. "Yes, thank you." I accepted the cup, keeping the kitchen island between us. "You said we'd discuss Tommy today." Always direct. Approval colored his tone. "I admire that about you, Elena." "My brother," I insisted. Adrian nodded once. "Tommy borrowed money from some associates of mine. When he couldn't pay, he tried to run. A foolish decision. How much does he owe?" "The original sum was 50,000. With interest and penalties for his attempted disappearance. It's closer to 100,000 now." The amount staggered me. I would need to work at Bellissimo's for years to save that much. "I don't have that kind of money." "I'm aware." Adrian sipped his coffee. "But you have something else I want." Fear coiled in my stomach. "What?" "Your company." I stared at him, waiting for the rest, for the demand, the proposition, the trap, but he simply watched me, his expression unreadable. "My company? I want you to work for me, Elena. Not as a waitress, as my personal assistant." Relief and suspicion warred within me. What would that entail exactly? Managing my schedule, accompanying me to meetings and events, living here where I can ensure your safety. And Tommy's debt will be forgiven. Immediately. He can return to his life, although I suggest he find a new city. His current reputation in this one is problematic. It sounded too simple, too clean. "What's the catch?" Adrian set down his cup, moving around the island until he stood before me. "The catch, Elena, is that once you enter my world, you don't leave. Not until I decide otherwise." His finger traced my collarbone, a feather-light touch that raised goosebumps on my skin. "You'll be mine. In every way that matters." The words hung in the air between us. Mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have repelled me, sent me running for the door. Instead, I felt a treacherous warmth spreading through my chest, a dangerous curiosity. "I need to think about it," I said, stepping back from his touch. "And I need to see Tommy first, to know he's alive." Adrian's eyes narrowed slightly, but he nodded. "A reasonable request." He checked his watch. Platinum, I noticed, understated but unmistakably expensive. "I have meetings this morning. We'll see your brother this afternoon." "And until then?" "Until then," he said, gesturing to the space around us. "Make yourself at home. There's a library through those doors. The grounds are secure if you'd like fresh air. My staff has been instructed to provide whatever you need." With that, he left me alone in the vast kitchen, the coffee cooling in my cup and his offer weighing on my mind. I spent the morning exploring the mansion, careful to stay away from rooms that appeared to be offices or private spaces. The library he'd mentioned was magnificent. Floor-to-ceiling shelves filled with leather-bound classics, contemporary fiction, and books in languages I couldn't identify. I ran my fingers along the spines, wondering if he'd actually read them, or if they were just part of the carefully curated image he presented to the world. Outside, the ground stretched toward the edge of the cliff, meticulously landscaped gardens giving way to a sleek infinity pool that seemed to spill into the sky. Security personnel patrolled discreetly along the perimeter, a constant reminder that this paradise was also a fortress. By early afternoon, I'd returned to the library, losing myself in a rare edition of Austen to quiet the anxiety churning in my stomach. The sound of Adrian's voice startled me. "You appreciate the classics," he observed from the doorway. I closed the book carefully. "They remind me of a simpler time." "There's never been a simple time, Elena. Only simple stories." He gestured for me to follow him. "The car is waiting." The drive into the city was quiet, Adrian working on his phone while I watched the landscape transform from exclusive estates to urban sprawl. We finally stopped at what appeared to be an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district. Adrian must have sensed my apprehension. "It's secure," he said, as his driver opened my door. "Stay close to me." Inside, the warehouse was divided into smaller rooms. 2 men stood guard outside one door, nodding respectfully as Adrian approached. Neither looked at me directly. 10 minutes, Adrian told them. No more. The room beyond was spare. A bed, a chair, a small bathroom visible through an open door. And sitting on the edge of the bed, bruised but alive, was Tommy. Ellie? His voice cracked, disbelief and fear mingling in his expression as he stood. What are you doing here? With him? I rushed forward, embracing my brother tightly, inhaling his familiar scent beneath the staleness of confinement. Are you hurt? Have they? I'm okay, Tommy interrupted, his eyes darting nervously to Adrian, who stood silently by the door. They've treated me fairly, considering. I pulled back to examine his face. Thinner than I remembered, a yellowing bruise beneath one eye, but otherwise intact. Relief flooded through me. Mr. Russo and I have been discussing your situation, I said carefully. Tommy's expression hardened. Ellie, whatever he's asked you to do, don't. This is my mess. I'll figure it out. I glanced back at Adrian, who watched our reunion with clinical detachment. Tommy, I can help. I'm going to help. You don't understand what these people are capable of, my brother hissed, lowering his voice. What he's capable of. Time's up, Adrian announced from the doorway. I squeezed Tommy's hand. Trust me. Everything will be okay. As we left, Tommy called after me. Ellie, please. But the closing door cut off his plea. In the car, I turned to Adrian. He looks terrible. He's alive, Adrian replied mildly. Many in his position wouldn't be. The casual reference to my brother's potential death sent a chill through me. This was the reality of the world I was considering entering. A world where lives were bargaining chips, where power was measured in fear. If I agree to your terms, I said slowly, Tommy goes free today, completely free, with enough money to start over somewhere else. Adrian studied me, his pale eyes unreadable. You're negotiating now? I'm establishing parameters, I corrected. If I'm going to be yours, I need to know exactly what that means, and what I'm getting in return. A smile curved his lips, a real one this time, reaching his eyes with something like respect. Tommy will be released today with $20,000, enough to start fresh, not enough to fall back into old habits. He leaned closer. As for what being mine means, Elena, it means your safety, your comfort, your future are my concern. It means you work for me, live in my home, accompany me where I require your presence. And in my personal life, I pressed, needing clarity on the boundaries, if any existed. You won't have a personal life separate from me. His tone was matter-of-fact, as if discussing the weather. Where you go, who you see, what you do, all of it will be with my knowledge and approval. My stomach tightened. And if I want to leave, after a year or two? Adrian's expression cooled. That's not how this works. So I'd be your prisoner. No. He reached across the space between us, his fingers brushing my cheek. You'd be under my protection. There's a difference. And physically? I forced myself to ask the question that had hovered unspoken between us. What do you expect? His eyes darkened, but his voice remained controlled. I don't take what isn't freely given, Elena. When you come to my bed, and you will, it will be because you want to be there. The confidence in his assertion sent heat rushing to my face. I looked away, watching the city pass outside the window. I need tonight, I said finally. To think. To decide. One night, he agreed. No longer. We returned to his mansion as evening fell. Adrian disappeared into his office, while I wandered onto the terrace, watching the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire. The beauty contrasted sharply with the heaviness in my chest, the impossible choice before me. Dinner was served on the terrace, Adrian joining me as if this were normal, as if I weren't contemplating signing away my freedom to save my brother. He spoke of a gallery opening the following week, of a business trip to Milan at the end of the month, all with the casual assumption that I would be by his side. You're very confident in my answer, I observed as dessert was cleared away. Adrian leaned back in his chair, studying me over the rim of his wineglass. I know desperation when I see it, Elena. And I know you love your brother more than you love your freedom. The accuracy of his assessment stung. You've been watching me for a while, haven't you, before the restaurant? 6 months, he admitted without hesitation, since Tommy first borrowed money from my associates. The timeline aligned perfectly with my brother's disappearance. You've been waiting for this moment. I've been waiting for you, he corrected. The timing is convenient. Why me? The question had burned in my mind since that first dinner. I'm nobody. I have nothing to offer someone like you. Adrian set down his glass, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. You pushed a child out of the path of a speeding car last winter, on 5th Avenue. You gave your umbrella to an elderly man during a downpour, then walked 6 blocks in the rain. You leave food for the stray cat behind your building, even when you can barely feed yourself. He leaned forward. You have a rare quality, Elena, a goodness that hasn't been corrupted by the world. That's worth more than you know. I stared at him, unnerved by the intimate knowledge of my life, by the intensity in his gaze. You had me followed. I had you observed, he corrected. There's a difference. Later, alone in the guest room, I paced the floor, weighing options that weren't really options at all. Could I run? Take Tommy and disappear? The thought was laughable. Adrian Russo had resources I couldn't imagine, connections everywhere. There would be no hiding from him. Could I refuse? Go back to my life? Leave Tommy to his fate? The idea made me physically ill. In the end, there was only one path forward, only one choice that wasn't really a choice. Morning found me in the kitchen before Adrian, watching the sunrise paint the sky in delicate pinks and golds. He entered silently, observing me for a moment before speaking. You've decided. I turned to face him, squaring my shoulders. Yes, I accept your offer, with one additional condition. His eyebrow raised slightly, which is, I want it in writing. A contract that specifies Tommy's freedom, my obligations to you, and a term limit. 5 years. I met his gaze steadily. After 5 years, I want the option to leave if I choose. Adrian's lips quirked in amusement. Always surprising me. He considered for a moment. 3 years. With the understanding that if you leave, you do so with nothing but what you brought with you. And you never contact your brother again. The condition was cruel, calculated to ensure I would think carefully before walking away. Fine. 3 years. And I want your word, he added, moving closer. Beyond any paper you sign. I want you to promise me, Elena. 3 years. Completely mine. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the promise he was asking for. You have my word. Something darkened in his eyes. Satisfaction, possession, desire. He reached for my hand, raising it to his lips in a gesture that felt both old-fashioned and strangely intimate. Then we have an agreement. Everything moved quickly after that. By afternoon, a contract had been prepared, reviewed by a lawyer who arrived and departed with discreet efficiency. I signed my name with shaking fingers, watching as Adrian's bold signature claimed the line beside mine. Your brother will be released tonight, Adrian informed me as the documents were taken away. My men will drive him to the airport with a ticket to Portland and enough cash to start over. I want to say goodbye. Adrian shook his head. A clean break is better, for both of you. I wanted to argue, to insist on one last moment with the only family I had left. But the finality in Adrian's tone made it clear this wasn't negotiable. My first lesson in the new power dynamic between us. What happens now? I asked instead. Now, Adrian said. We begin your transition. My assistant has arranged for your belongings to be packed and brought here. Tomorrow, we'll discuss your duties in detail. His eyes traveled over me appraisingly. Tonight, we'll have dinner with an associate of mine. Your first official appearance as part of my household. The day passed in a blur of details. A personal shopper arriving with racks of clothing for me to try. A stylist measuring me for alterations. A woman explaining the security protocols of the house. I moved through it all in a daze, the reality of what I'd agreed to still sinking in. By evening, I stood before the mirror in my new room. Not the guest room, but a suite adjacent to Adrian's, decorated in soft creams and blues. The dress they'd selected for dinner was black, simple but elegant, highlighting my figure without being overtly provocative. My hair had been styled, my makeup applied by professionals. The woman in the mirror looked like me, but wasn't me, not the real me, the one who had existed before Adrian Russo had entered my life. A knock at the door preceded Adrian's entrance. He paused, his eyes darkening as they swept over me. "Beautiful," he murmured. The same word he'd used before, but weighted differently now that I belonged to him. "Who are we meeting?" I asked, reaching for the clutch purse that had been provided along with the dress. "Carlo Vega, a business associate from Miami." Adrian offered his arm. "He's an important connection, but not entirely trustworthy. You'll sit beside me, speak when spoken to, and observe everything." I placed my hand on his arm, feeling the solid strength beneath the expensive suit. "Is this a test?" Adrian's smile was sharp. "Everything is a test, Elena, but I have no doubt you'll excel." As we descended the stairs together, I felt the eyes of the household staff tracking our movement, noting our linked arms, the proprietary way Adrian guided me. Whatever they thought of the situation, of me, remained hidden behind professionally blank expressions. Outside, the familiar black car waited in the circular drive. As Adrian held the door for me, a flash of movement caught my eye. A shadowy figure darting between the trees at the edge of the property. I almost mentioned the movement to Adrian, but hesitated, uncertain if I'd truly seen anything. Security was everywhere on the property. It was probably just one of his men patrolling the perimeter. Still, a sense of unease settled in my stomach as the car pulled away from the mansion. The restaurant was an exclusive establishment downtown, its entrance unmarked save for a discreet brass plaque. A host greeted Adrian by name, leading us through a dimly lit dining room to a private alcove where a man already waited. Carlo Vega rose as we approached, shorter than Adrian but powerfully built, with silver threading through his dark hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Those eyes lingered on me a beat too long as Adrian introduced us. "A pleasure to meet you, Elena," Vega said, his accent thicker than Adrian's, his handshake lasting seconds longer than necessary. "Adrian has been uncharacteristically secretive about you." Adrian's hand settled possessively at the small of my back as we took our seats. "Elena has recently joined my household. She'll be handling my personal affairs going forward." The double meaning wasn't lost on Vega, whose gaze traveled over me with renewed interest. "Indeed?" A significant promotion from serving tables at Bellissimo's. The fact that he knew where I'd worked sent a chill through me. How much information had been exchanged about me before this dinner? "I'm fortunate," I said carefully, feeling Adrian's approval in the subtle pressure of his hand against my spine. Dinner progressed through multiple courses, the conversation weaving between innocuous topics and veiled references to business dealings I didn't fully understand. I observed as instructed, noting how Vega drank heavily while Adrian barely touched his wine, how the Miami man's gestures grew more expansive as the evening wore on. "The shipment arrives Tuesday," Vega said as dessert was served. "My people are handling the customs paperwork, but I'm concerned about the harbor master. He's become difficult." "The harbor master is no longer your concern," Adrian replied coolly. "It's been addressed." Vega raised an eyebrow. "Permanently?" "Let's just say he's taking an extended vacation." Adrian's tone ended that line of discussion. "What concerns me more is the situation with the Moretti family. I hear they've been making overtures to your operation." Vega's expression tightened. "Rumors only. I would never entertain their proposals." "Of course not," Adrian said smoothly, though something in his tone suggested he believed otherwise. "Still, Elena and I will be visiting Miami next month. Perhaps we should review your security protocols before then." The conversation shifted, but the threat had been delivered. I wondered what would happen to Carlo Vega if Adrian's suspicions proved correct. The thought made me shiver. "Cold, my dear?" Adrian asked, his attention instantly on me. "A little," I admitted. He signaled to the waiter. "Bring my car around. We're finished here." Vega looked surprised at the abrupt ending. "So soon? I thought we might discuss the Chicago expansion." "Another time, Carlo." Adrian was already standing, helping me from my chair with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with the steel in his voice. "Elena's comfort is my priority." Outside, as we waited for the car, Adrian drew me closer against the evening chill. "You did well," he murmured, his breath warm against my hair. "What did you observe?" I considered my answer carefully. "He's nervous, drinking too much, and he was lying about the Moretti family." His right eye twitched slightly each time he denied it. Adrian's lips curved into a smile. "Very good. What else?" "He was armed. I saw the outline of a gun when he reached for his wallet. And he has someone watching us." I nodded discreetly toward a sedan parked across the street. "That car has been there since we arrived. The driver hasn't moved." Adrian's arm tightened around me, something like pride flickering in his eyes. "You have natural instincts for this work, Elena. I'm pleased." The praise shouldn't have warmed me, but it did, a small ember glowing in my chest despite everything. The ride home was quiet, Adrian working on his phone, while I watched the city lights blur past. When we reached the mansion, he walked me to my suite, pausing at the door. "Tomorrow we begin your formal training," he said. "There's much for you to learn about my business, my associates, my enemies." "I'm not sure I want to know everything about your business," I admitted. Thinking of veiled references to harbor masters and shipments, Adrian's finger traced the line of my jaw. "You'll know what I need you to know. Nothing more, nothing less." His touch lingered, a gentle pressure that held me in place. "You were exquisite tonight, Elena. Every eye in that restaurant was on you." "On us," I corrected softly. "They were watching us together, yes." Something darkened in his gaze. They were. For a moment I thought he might kiss me. His eyes dropped to my lips. His body shifted almost imperceptibly closer. Instead, he stepped back, composure reclaimed. "Sleep well, Elena. Tomorrow will be demanding." Inside my suite, I peeled off the designer dress, scrubbed away the perfect makeup, and stared at myself in the bathroom mirror. Who was I becoming? What had I agreed to? The woman looking back at me seemed like a stranger, caught somewhere between the struggling waitress I'd been and whatever Adrian Russo intended to make of me. My sleep was restless, filled with dreams of shadowy figures watching from the trees, of Tommy calling out to me, his voice growing fainter as I ran toward it. Morning brought a new routine. Adrian's assistant, Sophia, the sharp-suited woman I'd first seen at the restaurant, appeared at my door at precisely 7 a.m. "Mr. Russo expects you for breakfast in 30 minutes, she informed me, her expression professionally neutral as she handed me a tablet. "Your schedule is loaded here. You'll need to review it before joining him." The schedule was meticulously detailed. Language lessons at 9, followed by sessions on etiquette, then meetings with Adrian's security team to review protocols. Afternoon appointments with a personal trainer, a stylist for final fittings on my new wardrobe, and finally, dinner with Adrian at 8. I dressed in one of the simpler outfits that had been provided, tailored black trousers and a cream silk blouse, and made my way to the terrace where breakfast was served. Adrian was already there, reading something on his tablet while he sipped his coffee. He looked up as I approached, his eyes approving. "You reviewed the schedule?" I nodded, taking the seat across from him. "It's comprehensive." "Your role requires certain skills," he said, setting aside his tablet. "Languages, social graces, an understanding of security measures. I've arranged the best instructors." "What exactly will I be doing for you?" I asked, accepting a cup of coffee from a silent staff member who appeared and disappeared with practiced invisibility. Adrian considered me over the rim of his cup. "Initially, you'll accompany me to meetings and events, observe and report your impressions. As your skills develop, you'll take on more responsibility, managing my calendar, screening my contacts, perhaps eventually handling certain negotiations. You trust me with that much?" I couldn't keep the surprise from my voice. "I will," he said simply. "By the time you're given such responsibilities, your loyalty will be absolute." The confidence in his statement should have angered me, but there was a chilling logic to it. 3 years in his world, dependent on him for everything, cut off from my previous life. What choice would I have but loyalty? The days that followed fell into a pattern. Mornings filled with lessons, Italian and French, the intricacies of European business etiquette, the subtle art of reading body language and detecting lies. Afternoons devoted to physical training, Not just fitness, but self-defense, awareness exercises, even basic instruction in handling a firearm that left my hands shaking and my ears ringing. Adrian was frequently absent during the day, attending to business I wasn't yet privy to, but evenings belonged to him, dinners where he questioned me about what I'd learned, tested my observations, gradually revealed small pieces of his empire. Private moments on the terrace afterward, his hand occasionally brushing mine, his eyes lingering on my face in ways that made my pulse quicken despite my best intentions. 2 weeks into this new life, Adrian informed me over breakfast that we would be attending a gala that evening, my first public appearance as his official companion. "The governor will be there," he said, watching my reaction closely, "along with several business associates you haven't met. This is an important night, Elena." "What do you need from me?" I asked, setting aside my anxiety about the event. A smile touched his lips. "Just be yourself. Observe. Remember what you've learned." His hand covered mine briefly, and stay close to me. The dress selected for the event was breathtaking. Deep red silk that clung to my body before flowing to the floor, a slit rising dangerously high on one thigh. When I emerged from my suite that evening, Adrian was waiting in the hall. His sharp intake of breath as he saw me sent heat flooding through my veins. "You'll stop hearts tonight," he said softly, offering his arm. The gala was held at the Art Museum downtown, its grand marble staircase lined with photographers capturing the arrival of the city's elite. I felt their lenses turn toward us as we ascended. Adrien Rousseau, notorious and powerful, with an unknown woman on his arm. Tomorrow I would be in those photos, my face linked to his in the public imagination. Inside, the museum's central hall had been transformed into a glittering reception space. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light over the crowd, the air humming with conversation and the subtle notes of a string quartet. Adrian guided me through the room, his hand steady at my waist, introducing me to a blur of faces, politicians, business owners, old money families whose names I recognized from history books. "Adrian, darling," a woman's voice cut through the noise, belonging to a statuesque blonde in a shimmering silver gown, who approached us with practiced grace. "I was beginning to think you were avoiding me." "Vanessa," Adrian acknowledged coolly. "Allow me to introduce Elena Ellis. Elena, this is Vanessa Moretti." The name triggered an immediate connection to the conversation with Vega. This woman was part of the family Adrian had mentioned. Potential rivals, or worse. Vanessa's perfectly sculpted eyebrows arched as she assessed me. "Elena, how refreshing. I don't believe I've seen you at these events before." "This is my first," I admitted, maintaining the calm demeanor I'd been practicing. "Elena recently joined my household," Adrian supplied, his tone carrying a warning that didn't escape the blonde's notice. "Did she?" Vanessa's smile turned predatory. "How fortunate for you both. Though I must say, Adrian, your taste has evolved since we were together." The casual revelation that they had been involved sent an unexpected surge of jealousy through me. I fought to keep my expression neutral, as Adrian's hand tightened possessively at my waist. "If you'll excuse us," he said smoothly. "The governor is waiting." As he guided me away, I couldn't resist asking, "You and Vanessa Moretti?" "A mistake from several years ago," Adrian replied, his voice hardening. "One that has complicated certain business arrangements." "She still wants you," I observed. Adrian's eyes met mine, something dangerous flickering in their depths. "Does that bother you, Elena?" Before I could answer, a commotion near the entrance drew our attention. Security personnel were converging on a man who appeared to be arguing with the event staff. Even from across the room, I recognized him. Tommy. My heart lurched. "Adrian." "I see him." Adrian's voice had gone deadly quiet. "Stay here." But Tommy had already spotted us, pushing past a security guard to stride in our direction, his face flushed with anger or alcohol or both. "Ellie," he called, drawing curious stares from nearby guests. "Ellie, what the hell is going on?" "I got your message." Adrian intercepted him smoothly, placing himself between my brother and me. "Mr. Ellis, "This is hardly the place. Get away from her," Tommy snarled, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "I know what you are." "I know what you've done." I moved forward, panic rising in my throat. "Tommy, please." Security was closing in, the elegant crowd drawing back from the scene unfolding in their midst. Tommy's eyes, wild with desperation, locked on mine over Adrian's shoulder. "Run, Ellie. Whatever he told you, it's lies. You need to—" His words cut off as two of Adrian's men grabbed him by the arms. Adrian turned to me, his expression carefully controlled despite the public spectacle. "Go to the car," he ordered quietly. "Now." "Adrian, please don't hurt him," I begged, reaching for his arm. "He's confused. He doesn't understand." "The car, Elena," Adrian repeated, his voice leaving no room for argument. "We'll discuss this at home." Torn between obedience and the desperate need to protect my brother, I hesitated. Adrian's eyes softened fractionally. "I promise he won't be harmed," he said, for my ears alone. "But you need to go. Now." With one last glance at Tommy, still struggling in the grip of Adrian's security men, I turned and made my way toward the exit, feeling the weight of curious stares following my departure. In the car, I waited, minutes stretching into an hour before Adrian finally appeared, his expression thunderous as he slid into the seat beside me. "How did he find you?" he demanded without preamble. "How did he know you would be here tonight?" "I don't know," I whispered, fear constricting my throat. "I haven't contacted him, I swear." Adrian studied me, his pale eyes searching for deception. "Someone told him, Elena. Someone who shouldn't have." "Is he—" I swallowed hard, forcing the question past the tightness in my throat. "Is he okay?" "He's being taken somewhere secure," Adrian replied, his voice dangerously calm. "Until I determine how he found you and who helped him." The car moved silently through the night, carrying us back to the mansion. I sat rigid beside Adrian, my mind racing. Tommy had mentioned a message I hadn't sent. Someone was playing a dangerous game, using my brother as a pawn. "Adrian," I said carefully. "Tommy mentioned getting a message from me. I didn't send anything." His eyes narrowed. "Are you certain?" "Absolutely certain," I insisted. "You've had me watched constantly since I moved in. You know I haven't contacted him." Adrian's jaw tightened, a muscle pulsing beneath his skin. "Then it seems we have a problem." At the mansion, Adrian led me directly to his office, a room I'd never been allowed to enter before. It was masculine and imposing, walls lined with bookshelves and a massive desk dominating the space. He gestured for me to sit while he poured 2 drinks from a crystal decanter. "Someone is attempting to interfere with our arrangement," he said, handing me a glass. "Someone who knew enough to find your brother and lure him to the gala." I took a sip, the whiskey burning a path down my throat. "Vanessa Moretti?" Adrian's eyebrow raised slightly. "Why do you suspect her?" "The timing of her approach tonight, the way she looked at me, at us." I set my glass down. "And you mentioned her family has been making overtures to Vega. What if this is part of a larger plan to disrupt your business?" Something shifted in Adrian's expression. Surprise, perhaps, and a calculating interest. "You're thinking like one of us now, Elena." The observation unsettled me. Was I becoming like them? Like him? "I'm thinking like someone who wants to protect her brother," I corrected. "And herself." Adrian moved around the desk, perching on its edge directly in front of me. "The Moretti family has been trying to expand their territory for years. Vanessa's father died 6 months ago, and she's eager to prove herself as the new head of their operation." His finger traced the rim of his glass thoughtfully. "Using your brother to create a public scene, to make me appear vulnerable. It's her style. What happens now?" "Now," Adrian said, setting aside his drink and reaching for my face, his thumb brushing across my lower lip. "I send a message of my own." The intensity in his eyes made my breath catch. "What kind of message?" Instead of answering, he leaned down and captured my mouth with his. The kiss was possessive, demanding, sending heat coursing through my body despite the circumstances. When he finally pulled back, his eyes had darkened to stormy blue. "You belong to me, Elena," he murmured against my lips. and I protect what's mine. The next morning, I woke to find a small, elegant box on my bedside table. Inside, nestled a platinum pendant, a delicate key suspended on a fine chain. A note in Adrian's bold handwriting accompanied it. "Wear this always." I fastened it around my neck, wondering at its significance. Was it merely decorative or something more? With Adrian, nothing was ever simple. He was waiting for me at breakfast, his expression grim as he read something on his phone. "The newspapers have an interesting story this morning," he said without looking up. Apparently, Vanessa Moretti's warehouse burned down overnight. A tragic accident. My fingers instinctively touched the pendant at my throat. "And Tommy?" "Is being held at one of my properties upstate." "Safely," Adrian added, finally meeting my gaze. "Once I'm certain the threat has been neutralized, he'll be sent away again. Farther this time." I nodded, relief mingling with apprehension. How many warehouses would burn? How many lives would be disrupted to maintain the empire Adrian had built? And what role was I playing in all of it? The incident at the gala marked a turning point in my relationship with Adrian. Whatever barriers had existed between us began to dissolve. He included me in more meetings, shared more details of his business operations, trusted me with information that could destroy him if it fell into the wrong hands. And each night, his goodbyes at my door lingered longer, the tension between us building toward an inevitable conclusion. 1 month after I'd signed the contract that bound me to him, Adrian informed me we would be traveling to Sicily. "My mother's family estate," he explained as we boarded his private jet. "We'll be there for 2 weeks." The estate was breathtaking, a centuries-old villa perched on a cliff overlooking the Mediterranean. Olive groves and vineyards stretched across the surrounding hillsides, the air fragrant with rosemary and sea salt. It felt like stepping into another world, far removed from the urban power plays of home. Here, Adrian seemed different, more relaxed, less the calculating crime lord and more the man. He showed me the places of his childhood, introduced me to distant relatives and old family retainers who had known him as a boy. In the evenings, we dined on the terrace overlooking the sea, talking for hours about books, art, philosophy, subjects that revealed a depth to him I hadn't glimpsed before. On our 5th night in Sicily, as we lingered over dessert beneath a canopy of stars, Adrian reached across the table for my hand. "You've changed since coming here," he observed, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "How so?" "You're more at ease, less guarded." His eyes reflected the distant lights of fishing boats on the horizon. "I prefer you this way, Elena." I smiled, the wine and the setting making me bold. "Perhaps it's because you're different here too." "Am I?" "Less the Mafia boss and more just Adrian." His expression softened. "And which do you prefer?" "I'm still deciding," I admitted. "Both have their appeal." Later, as he walked me to my room, adjacent to his in the villa's east wing, Adrian paused outside my door. The moonlight filtering through ancient windows cast his features in silver and shadow. "I'm tired of waiting, Elena," he said quietly. My heart stuttered against my ribs. "Waiting for what?" "For you to come to me willingly." His fingers traced the line of my jaw, tilted my face up to his. "For you to admit what we both know." "And what's that?" I whispered, though I knew the answer. "That despite everything, despite how we began, you want me as much as I want you." The truth of his words resonated in my blood. Whatever moral objections I'd clung to had eroded day by day, replaced by a hunger I couldn't deny. I reached up, my fingers threading through his hair, and pulled his mouth down to mine. The kiss was different from our first, not a statement of possession, but an invitation, a beginning. Adrian groaned against my lips, his arms encircling me, pulling me flush against him. When we finally broke apart, his eyes were dark with desire. "My room," he murmured. "Now." I should have hesitated, should have considered what this step would mean. Instead, I took his hand and followed him down the moonlit corridor, desire drowning out every other consideration. His bedroom was larger than mine, dominated by a massive 4-poster bed. Adrian pulled me to him the moment the door closed behind us, his kiss deeper now, hungrier. His hands found the zipper of my dress. slowly drawing it down as his lips traced a path along my neck. "I've imagined this," he confessed against my skin, "every night since you came to me." The dress pooled at my feet, his hands exploring newly exposed skin with reverent attention. I worked at the buttons of his shirt, desperate to feel him, to cross this final boundary between us. When we were both undressed, Adrian lifted me onto the bed, his body covering mine, his weight a delicious pressure. "Mine," he whispered as he entered me, the word both a claim and a promise. "Yours," I agreed, surrendering completely to what had been inevitable from the start. Afterward, lying in the circle of his arms as moonlight spilled across the tangled sheets, I traced the lines of an old scar on his shoulder. "How did you get this?" "My first lesson in betrayal," Adrian said, his voice soft in the darkness. "I was 19, working for my father. Trusted the wrong person. What happened to them?" "The person who betrayed you." His silence was answer enough. "Adrian," I ventured, emboldened by our newfound intimacy, "what happens when our 3 years are over?" His arms tightened around me. "That's a discussion for another time." "But, Elena," his tone carried a warning, "don't spoil tonight with thoughts of endings." I fell silent, understanding that some boundaries still remained, some questions he wasn't ready to answer. Instead, I pressed closer to him, committing to memory the feel of his skin against mine, the rhythm of his breathing as he drifted toward sleep. In the morning, I woke alone, sunlight streaming through windows I didn't remember being opened. A note on Adrian's pillow directed me to meet him for breakfast on the terrace. I dressed in a simple sundress from the wardrobe that had mysteriously been filled with clothes in my size, and made my way through the villa's cool corridors. The sight that greeted me on the terrace froze me mid-step. Adrian sat at the table as promised, but he wasn't alone. Across from him, wearing an expression of cautious hostility, sat Tommy. My brother's eyes locked with mine, a storm of emotions crossing his face. Relief, anger, confusion. He rose from his chair, ignoring Adrian's sharp glance. "Ellie," he breathed, moving toward me. I rushed forward, embracing him tightly, breathing in his familiar scent, the last tangible connection to my old life. "Tommy, what are you doing here?" "How?" "Mr. Russo invited me," Tommy said, pulling back to search my face. "He said it was time we talked, all of us." I turned to Adrian, questioning. His expression was unreadable, controlled, but there was a tension in the set of his shoulders I'd learned to recognize. "Sit," Adrian instructed, gesturing to the empty chair between them. "We have much to discuss," I complied, hyper-aware of the current running between the two men. Tommy's barely contained hostility, Adrian's dangerous calm. "Your brother and I have been having an enlightening conversation," Adrian continued once I was seated, pouring coffee into my cup with practiced ease. "About his gambling debts, about the people he stole from, and about certain messages he claims to have received from you." Tommy leaned forward, his voice urgent. "Ellie, I never believed you'd choose to be with him willingly." "When I got those texts—" "What texts?" I interrupted. "Tommy, I never sent you anything." My brother's expression faltered. "But they came from your number. They said you were being held against your will, that you'd be at the governor's gala, that I needed to get you away from him." He jerked his head toward Adrian. Adrian's eyes never left my face. "Show her." Tommy reluctantly pulled out his phone, scrolling to messages that did, indeed, appear to come from my old number. Messages describing abuse, coercion, fear, a tissue of lies designed to provoke exactly the reaction they had. "I didn't send these," I said firmly, handing the phone back. "Someone was using you, Tommy, trying to create problems for Adrian." "Problems?" Tommy's voice rose. "Ellie, this man is a criminal. His family has been running illegal operations in this city for decades." "That's enough," Adrian cut in, his tone deceptively soft. "Elena knows exactly who I am, what I am. Don't you, cara mia?" The endearment slipped from his lips naturally, intimately, and I watched understanding dawn in Tommy's eyes, followed quickly by dismay. "My God," he whispered. "You're sleeping with him." Heat flooded my cheeks, but I held my brother's gaze steadily. "It's more complicated than that, Tommy." "Is it? Because it looks pretty simple from where I'm sitting." Tommy pushed back from the table, standing abruptly. He bought you. With my debt. That's not what happened, I protested, though the denial rang hollow even to my ears. No? Tommy's laugh was bitter. Then walk away with me right now. Let's go, Ellie, right now. I didn't move. Couldn't move. The silence stretched between us, damning in its implication. That's what I thought. My brother said finally. He owns you. I made a choice, I countered, my voice strengthening with conviction I hadn't known I possessed. I chose to save you, yes. But I also chose this life, Tommy. I chose Adrian. Adrian's hand found mine beneath the table, his fingers intertwining with mine in a gesture that felt suddenly, profoundly significant. Mr. Ellis, Adrian addressed Tommy directly, your sister and I have an arrangement. 3 years of her service in exchange for your freedom and safety. That arrangement stands, regardless of your personal feelings about it. And after these 3 years? Tommy demanded. What then? Adrian's thumb traced circles on my palm. That will be Elena's choice. Tommy looked between us, disbelief etched in every line of his face. You actually believe that? That he'll just let you walk away when the time comes? The question echoed my own unspoken doubts, but I pushed them aside. I need you to trust me, Tommy, and I need you to be safe, which means leaving the country, starting fresh somewhere Adrian's enemies can't find you. His enemies? Tommy laughed bitterly. What about your enemies now, Ellie? Because they're the same. You're in his world now. The truth of his statement hit me with unexpected force. I was in Adrian's world, had been sliding deeper into it day by day without fully acknowledging the transformation. Adrian rose from the table, buttoning his linen jacket in a casual display of authority. My jet will take you to Paris this afternoon. From there, you'll be provided with new identification, a bank account, and contacts who can help you establish yourself. His tone left no room for argument. Elena and I will join you for lunch before you depart. With that, he leaned down to place a possessive kiss on my cheek, his lips lingering near my ear. Talk to your brother, he murmured. Make him understand. Then he was gone, leaving Tommy and me alone on the sunlit terrace. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The distant sound of waves breaking against the cliffs below filled the silence. He'll never let you go, Tommy said finally, his voice quieter now. Men like him don't give up what they consider theirs. I touched the key pendant at my throat, Adrian's mark of ownership. Maybe I won't want to go. Listen to yourself, Ellie. This isn't you talking. This is Stockholm Syndrome or something. He's manipulating you. It's not that simple, I insisted. Adrian is complicated. There's more to him than what you see. Tommy's expression darkened. Do you know what he did to the men who gave me those loans? The ones who were hunting me? They disappeared, Ellie. All of them. No bodies, no traces, just gone. He leaned forward, his voice dropping. And the woman at the gala? The one you think sent those fake texts? Her warehouse wasn't the only thing that burned. They found 2 bodies in the ashes. My blood ran cold. I wanted to deny it, to defend Adrian, but I couldn't form the words. Some part of me had always known the true extent of his brutality, had glimpsed it in the cold calculation of his gaze, the unquestioning obedience of his men, the fear his name evoked. I'm worried about you, Tommy continued, reaching for my hand. This world he's pulled you into, it changes people. It corrupts them. I know what I'm doing, I said, though the conviction in my voice wavered. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, my big sister who used to lecture me about right and wrong is now the mistress of a murderer. The word stung. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Ellie? Help me understand, because I'm about to be shipped off to another continent, and I don't know if I'll ever see you again. Tears burned behind my eyes. I don't know how to explain it, Tommy. I started this to save you, but now... I trailed off, unsure how to articulate the tangled emotions Adrian evoked in me. You think you love him, Tommy said flatly. Did I? The question had been circling in my mind, particularly since our night together. What I felt for Adrian was complex. Fear mingled with desire, resentment with admiration, anger with a growing, undeniable affection. I began carefully, I think I'm beginning to understand him. And I think, in his way, he cares for me. Tommy's expression softened with pity. Oh, Ellie. He doesn't care for anyone but himself. Men like him don't know how to love, only how to possess. Before I could respond, the sound of a helicopter approaching drowned out our conversation. Tommy and I moved to the edge of the terrace, watching as the aircraft descended onto a pad at the far end of the property. That's unusual, I commented, a flutter of unease stirring in my stomach. Adrian hadn't mentioned expecting visitors. 4 men emerged from the helicopter, their postures tense, purposeful. Even from a distance, I could see they were armed. Something's wrong, I murmured, turning back toward the villa. We need to find Adrian. We'd barely made it through the terrace doors when gunshots echoed from inside the house. Tommy grabbed my arm, pulling me behind a stone column as shouts and more gunfire erupted. Moretti, I whispered, understanding dawning with sickening clarity. It has to be. Tommy's eyes widened. Who? Vanessa Moretti. She's been trying to move against Adrian. The fake texts, the scene at the gala, it was all part of a larger plan. Adrian had mentioned he'd brought fewer men to Sicily, wanting privacy during our stay. The estate was secluded, staffed primarily by locals who had known his family for generations, not trained security. We need to get out of here, Tommy urged, pulling me toward the side of the terrace that led to the gardens. No, I pulled back. I can't leave Adrian. My brother stared at me in disbelief. Are you insane? Those people are here to kill him, and probably anyone with him. That includes you, Ellie. Another burst of gunfire, closer now, punctuated his argument. I made a split-second decision. There's a hidden passage in the wine cellar, I said, recalling Adrian's tour of the estate. It leads to a cove below the cliffs. There's a boat there. How do we get to the cellar? Through the kitchen. I moved toward a different door, one that led to a service corridor. This way. We crept through the quiet hallway, the sounds of violence growing more distant. The kitchen was empty, the staff having fled or hidden at the first sign of trouble. I led Tommy to a heavy wooden door that opened onto stone steps descending into darkness. Stay close, I whispered, feeling along the wall for the light switch Adrian had shown me. The cellar illuminated with dim yellowish light, revealing rows of wooden racks filled with dusty bottles. I moved to the far corner, searching for the mechanism that would open the hidden door. Ellie. Tommy's voice, tight with warning, made me whirl around. Vanessa Moretti stood at the top of the stairs, a pistol in her perfectly manicured hand. Blood splattered the sleeve of her designer blouse. Someone else's, judging by her unharmed appearance. Elena Ellis, she said, descending the steps with casual menace. The waitress who captured Adrian Russo's heart. How touching, I stepped in front of Tommy instinctively. What do you want? Vanessa smiled, cold and predatory. Originally, to kill Adrian and take control of his territory. She gestured with the gun. But finding you here, that's an unexpected bonus. Adrian will hunt you to the ends of the earth if you harm her, Tommy said, his voice steadier than I expected. Oh, I'm counting on it. Vanessa's smile widened. He'll be much easier to trap when he's blinded by revenge. I felt the wall behind me, fingers searching desperately for the hidden latch. You're making a mistake. Adrian isn't alone in this. His associates will scramble like rats when they hear he's dead, Vanessa finished. That's how our world works, darling. The strong devour the weak. My fingers found the indentation I'd been seeking. With a barely audible click, a section of the wall swung inward. In the same instant, a gunshot rang out from the top of the stairs. Vanessa jerked, surprise flickering across her perfect features before she crumpled to the floor. Behind her stood Adrian, his own gun still raised, his face a mask of cold fury. Get in, he ordered, gesturing to the passage. Both of you. Now. I grabbed Tommy's hand, pulling him into the dark tunnel as Adrian descended the stairs, pausing only to verify Vanessa was dead. My men are engaging the intruders, Adrian said as he joined us in the passage, closing the hidden door behind him. But we need to get you to safety. The tunnel was narrow and damp, carved through the bedrock of the cliff centuries ago. Adrian took the lead, a small flashlight illuminating our path as we descended toward the sound of waves. You knew they were coming, I accused, the realization dawning as we hurried through the darkness. Adrian glanced back at me. I suspected. Bringing your brother here was a calculated risk. I needed to confirm who was feeding him information. You used me as bait, Tommy said bitterly. I used all of us, Adrian corrected. And it worked. Vanessa revealed herself. The tunnel opened onto a small, sheltered cove, where a sleek motorboat was moored. Adrian helped me aboard, then reached for Tommy. Where are we going? I asked as Adrian started the engine. To a safe house on the mainland, he replied, guiding the boat out of the cove and into open water, until I can ensure the threat is completely eliminated. As we sped away from the shore, I looked back at the villa perched on the cliff above us. Smoke was now rising from one wing, dark against the clear blue sky. How many people had died today? How many more would die before this power struggle was resolved? And where did I stand in all of it? No longer just an observer, no longer just a pawn. I had chosen to warn Adrian, to help him escape. I had chosen my side. The safe house turned out to be a modernist villa outside Palermo, staffed by security personnel who greeted Adrian with deferential nods. Tommy was shown to a room in one wing, while Adrian led me to the master suite. You'll stay with me tonight, he said, his tone making it clear this wasn't a request. Until I'm certain no one followed us. As darkness fell, reports began coming in from Adrian's men at the Sicily estate. The attack had been repelled, with heavy casualties on both sides. Vanessa's body had been removed, along with any evidence of her presence. What happens now? I asked as we lay in bed, Adrian's arm draped possessively across my waist. Now. He pressed a kiss to my shoulder. Now we respond. Decisively. I twisted to look at him. More violence? This is how our world works, Elena. His eyes gleamed in the darkness. The weak are devoured by the strong, I finished, echoing Vanessa's words. I know. Adrian's grip tightened. You saved my life today. You chose me over your own safety. Yes, I admitted softly. I did. Why? The question hung between us, demanding an honesty I wasn't sure I was ready to give. But in the darkness, with the day's violence still echoing in my mind, pretense seemed pointless. Because I love you, I whispered. God help me, but I do. Adrian's lips found mine, the kiss deep and possessive. When he finally pulled away, his eyes held a fierce intensity I'd never seen before. The contract is void, he said against my lips. I blinked, confusion breaking through the haze of desire. What, 3 years, an arrangement, terms of service? None of that matters anymore. His hand cupped my face, surprisingly gentle. I want you by my side, Elena. Not as an employee, not as a possession. As my equal, my partner. Your wife, I said, understanding his implication. My wife, he agreed. My queen. The mother of my children. The woman who stands beside me as we build something that will outlast both of us. It should have frightened me, this vision of a future intertwined with his empire of violence and power. Instead, I felt a strange sense of rightness, of inevitability. Tommy? I asked, practical concerns intruding on the moment. We'll be protected, always, Adrian promised. As your family, he becomes part of mine. The next morning, Tommy and I walked in the villa's garden while Adrian conducted business inside. My brother looked at me with new eyes, weighing the changes he saw in me against the sister he'd known. You're really going to do this, he said finally. Stay with him. Become part of all this. He gestured vaguely at the villa, the armed guards patrolling the perimeter. I am, I confirmed. I know it's not the life you imagined for me. It's not the life anyone imagined for you, Tommy interrupted. But I'm beginning to understand that you're not the same person who used to bail me out of trouble, who worked double shifts to pay our parents' medical bills. He looked at me seriously. You've changed, Ellie. We all change, I said softly. We become who we need to be to survive. Tommy nodded slowly. And you'll survive in his world. I can see that now. He squeezed my hand. Just don't forget who you were completely, okay? That girl who pushed a stranger out of the way of a speeding car. She's worth remembering. Later that day, as Adrian's jet carried Tommy away to his new life, I stood with Adrian on the terrace, his arm around my waist as we watched the plane disappear into the horizon. He'll be safe, Adrian assured me. I've made arrangements. I nodded, leaning into his strength. I know. Adrian turned me to face him. Are you sure about this, Elena? About us? Once you truly enter my world, there's no turning back. I thought of the frightened waitress I'd been, the woman who had signed a contract out of desperation. I thought of the blood that had been spilled, the lives taken in Adrian's name. In our name now. I'm sure, I said, reaching up to touch his face. I pushed you aside before that shot rang out. I saved your life, and in saving you, I found myself. Adrian pulled me closer, his kiss a seal on our pact. Mine, he murmured against my lips. Yours, I agreed, always. And as the Mediterranean sun set before us, painting the sky in shades of fire, I embraced the truth of who I had become. Not a victim, not a prisoner, but the woman who had pushed a Mafia boss aside before the shot rang out, and in doing so, had changed both our destinies forever.